Welcome, everybody, to today's Thursday morning living lessons of Tanya. We've finished just about chapter 5 last week, and this week is seriously going to be one of those classes that you're going to say, wow, this is the beginning of understanding the cholent that we have inside us, that entire mixed bag of voices. But first, let's give a little bit of a review of what we did last couple of weeks. We know that we were created by God, and in the body that we have, God gave us two souls. One is what we call an animal soul. That is the soul that gives us our desires and anything that we want to do. And then we have a godly soul, which is purely only for God. I only want to learn Torah. I only want to do a mitzvah. I'm not interested in business. I'm not interested in eating. When you're hungry, that's the animal soul. The godly soul will go and say, do me a favor, please, make it kosher. But much more will send you signals, which we'll get to later. Then we discuss that the animal soul is the root of all of your wild, crazy behaviors. It's all from the heart. It's the passion, your anger issues, your eating issues, any addiction that you have, it comes from the animal soul. And then the godly soul is totally, like I said, pure intention for God. Then we said the soul has a few powers. It has energies in order to survive. Not to survive, to work. You have three intellectual souls. In other words, I need wisdom power. In other words, how to bring in wisdom from the outside to come into my brain. Then the power of understanding. And then once I understand it, I can develop it into knowledge. And knowledge creates an emotion, so I can do it in action. Then we learned that the only way a human body can do action is thinking, speaking, and action, doing it with my hands. The godly soul, the animal soul, is trying to rule your thoughts, your speech, and your actions. And this is when you get to have your free choice. So we were talking a lot in chapters 4 and 5 about the greatness of the godly soul, how it gives you impulse to go and do mitzvah. And last week, near the end, we discussed about the greatness of learning Torah. Why is Torah so phenomenal? Because when you and I study God's wisdom, we are bringing God's thoughts into our brain. In other words, our brain is being engulfed by godly concepts. You are where your head is, basically. So if I'm thinking baseball a whole day, that's all I think about. If I think about certain things, that's where I am. That's what I'm addicted to. That's what it's all about. If I'm in business all day, even when you're sleeping, you're dreaming business. You could be talking to your spouse, you're thinking business. When you have Torah, godly thoughts, all of a sudden you're refined from the entire world. It refines your thoughts, it refines your mouth, because you only can put words into your mouth that come through here. And of course, your actions become holier, etc. It also, right near the end of chapter 5, the Alter Rebbe writes in the Tanya a beautiful concept, that when you take a thought of God, not only does it go in your brain and encapsulate the whole brain, because sometimes you're learning something, you go, wow, my whole mind is infused in what I'm thinking about. So not only does the concept take over your brain, but your brain is enveloping God's concept. So it's like a beautiful love of two concepts coming together. You cannot have a greater unity and closeness with God than when you're learning Torah. For an example, how many of you have studied a Torah book, or you're here at this class, or you come to Torah Entertainment on a Shabbos morning, and you hear some wonderful teachings of Torah, and you walk out, wow, what just happened to me? My brain is like, wow, my whole body is excited. Because the greatest aphrodisiac to get your whole body into anything is through the mind. The mind can create great emotions that are holy to create wonderful actions. That, my dear friends, is the end of chapter 5. But after describing the greatness of the godly soul, and it always wants just godliness, we must now understand, what about the animal soul? How is that made? What is its purpose? So everybody turn to chapter 6, which is page 46 in this wonderful book. If you're out there and you want to know where to buy this book, just send me an email or a text, and I'll be more than happy to give you the link where to buy it. All right. So on chapter 40, on page 46, right on the top, it says the following: the side of holiness is nothing but the pure presence and expression of God's holiness. And God only rests, where does God only hang out? Where there's no ego. In other words, when you're learning God's Torah in its purest form, you say, I want to learn Torah. I want to know what God thinks. It's God's wisdom. And you go, well, I love it. You may question it, but you want to question it to understand God even better. So where does God hang out the most? Where there's no ego. Where there's a huge ego, there's no room for God, because your ego has taken up the whole place. Why do we say this? Why are we talking this way? Because the animal soul, the animal is an existence. Every dog wants attention. Every cat needs attention. Every lion roars. It's the king of the jungle. Once you're a yesh means you're like a material, I'm a something. You're taking up space. That means you're putting less room for God. So let's look beneath the shell of what the animal soul is really all about. So now we're going to be opening up the hood a little bit to look underneath the engine. Because this, my dear friends, is what keeps us. The animal soul was created, seriously, for physical attention. For that you should be distracted from doing the holy things. Now, yes, granted, we have to eat. Granted, we have to buy clothes. Granted, we have to go to work, which is all the work of the animal soul. It is a distraction. Later on in the Tanya, we're going to understand how you're eating, and not because it's kosher. You can have all the kosher food you want. You're only feeding the animal. For example, how many of us go out for a good smash burger? How many of us go out, to one of the great restaurants here in town? It's all kosher. And you go, oh, you think that's holy? No, you're feeding your animal in you. So how do you transform the experience of having a good, fantastic dinner? And then it becomes holy. But that we'll get to much later. First, let's discuss the makeup and the purpose of the animal soul. You see, our world is called a world of falsehood. Falsehood? Why should I call it falsehood? You see, the truth is that God is the only reality and the only existence that there is. Nothing else exists besides God. As it says, as God writes, Ein oid milvadoi. There's nothing else but God. But from God, He allowed a creation to hide Him. Now, why do I say to hide Him? I mean, you look around, you see a tree, you see a table, you don't see God. I know there's a lot of people say, I see God in everything. I know you see God in everything. But seriously, you don't see God. On purpose, this has to be this way. I'll give you an example. When you look directly in the sun, you can't see anything else. Another example, you're driving late in the afternoon into sunset, and all of a sudden you're blinded. You don't see cars, you don't see trees. Now, do the cars exist? Do the trees exist? Of course they do. But there's too much light. So you don't see anything because the existence becomes nullified in the light. It's like it has no ego. It has no space almost. So what does God have to do? Retract some of its holiness, some of its great light. And the more you hold back some of the light, you put on sunglasses, you pull down the visor, you're able to look this way. All of a sudden, oh, there's a car. Oh, there's the curb. Oh, there's a tree. So in order for God to be able to create this world, God had to go and contract his light. So he is now hidden. In fact, in the blessing, Baruch Adonai Melech HaOlam, the word HaOlam, the world, is the same word as Helen, which means hidden. God is hidden so he can make the world exist. So when I see anything, I don't see God. So you start after a while thinking that this world that I see is the true reality. Let's continue reading it. It says, when we look at our world, we see a physical environment. We don't see holiness. It appears that we run our lives and we control our lives. It's not obvious that there's a higher power. God certainly does not seem to be the only existence because there's a lot of powers, like the hurricanes, the winds, the rain. And the world seems to exist independently from anything. By the way, there's a lot of people that say, and I put it out into the universe. I don't know what that means. The universe has no power. But people recognize if I put it out into the universe, something happens. They don't recognize that there's really a God who's the puppeteer of how this world works. There's one thing God is not a puppeteer about. My free choice. But we'll get to that later. If God was the puppeteer of my free choice, I'd be a robot. And what would be the point and the purpose of creating this world, which we haven't really gotten into what the purpose of creating this world is. We're just trying to understand right now us. See, we're talking about how God hides himself in the macro world, and then we're going to be able to understand how God is hidden in the micro within me, my world. So there's a word I'm going to teach you now. It's a Kabbalistic world. The illusion of keeping God hidden from everything, a shade or whatever it is, in Kabbalistic word, it's called klipa. Klipa, K-L-I-P-A-H, klipa. Or you can spell it as K-L-E-E-P-A-H, klipa. What does the word klipa really mean? A shell. Like every peanut has a shell. Now, I understand that the shell is there to protect the peanut. But if you didn't know that there was a peanut inside, and you just saw the shell, you would think that is the pure existence. So too is everything in this world has a sun visor, sunglasses, to keep the light away, or that I don't see the essence behind the physical in front of me. But there are certain things in our world that do reflect the real truth of all beings. For example, Torah and Mitzvah. Now you're going to say, Rabbi, why do you say Torah and Mitzvah? Well, let's go back to chapters 4 and 5. Chapters 4 and 5 is that the word mitzvah means connection. Every time that I connect, when I want to connect to God, I do a mitzvah. For example, when I put on my tefillin, my whole arm, my whole body is like being hugged by God. I'm connecting to God. When I study Torah, my brain, my whole existence, like, wow, this is such wisdom. I know. You all went to college, you all went to universities, and you studied medicine, and there are once in a while a wow factor. But every time you study Torah, it's like, wow, this wisdom is not only phenomenal, it's like, it makes me understand more about me. It's about me. But I'm downloading God into me, and I'm feeling like yummy. So there is a way to bypass the klipa. The more we study Torah, we feel a little buzz. We call that holy. Holy. What is really the word holy? What does holy mean? Do you remember there used to be a TV show many years ago called Kung Fu? And there was a master, and I forgot his name, and then there was the guy with the karate, Keratin his name? Whatever. And he was a young teenager at the time, and the master would go and bring him in a room, and there would be clouds, and there would be smoke, and everybody said, ooh, it's a real spiritual place. And he would go and say, come with me, young grasshopper. And he would go and talk to him, etc., etc. And everybody said, oh, that's spiritual, that's holy. No, that's not holy. That's not what holy means. Holy means I'm connected to Hashem. I'm connected to God. I can feel it. You want to know what holy is? Go to the Western Wall. You go to the Western Wall, all of a sudden you're crying, I never felt this holiness. You're only looking at stones. But why are you feeling this? Because you're at the epicenter of where God created the gate between earth and heaven. Plus, for almost 3,000 years, Jews have done millions and millions of mitzvah. So it's an atmosphere of a mitzvah place. It's a holy place. You can feel it. That's on the macro. How many of you sitting here started telling me, Rabbi, I started doing Shabbos dinners. I started lighting Shabbos candles. I started putting on tefillin. I started coming to shul on Shabbos morning. Rabbi, I don't know what it is, but I feel it. What are you feeling? You're not smoking. You're not drinking. You know what I'm talking about. Why? Because the true essence of God is filling you up. We call that holy, Kiddusha, Kadosh, Kiddush, holy, sanctification. Holiness is a clear window that allows God's light to shine through and break through the crack of the klipa that is trying to hide godliness. So there is a world. I can't feel God there. But when you start transforming your home, next door, they're eating pork. They're celebrating whatever holidays they want. You walk into your home, there's mezuzah, there's holy books like my library here. You have a kosher home, you're putting on tefillin, you have Shabbos, you have guests. All of a sudden you walk into the home, there's a different vibe. And I don't need feng shui for the new vibe. I don't need that. That's a manipulation. Feng shui. You want to know? You walk into my home, you walk into the synagogue. Oh, there's holiness. You can feel it, you can sense it. And the more you learn and the more you say the words of the prayers and understand it, you feel you're connected. So the animal soul is trying to hold you back from that. Don't go, don't do. With a million excuses. How many times you say, I'm going to go to services Saturday morning. Then all of a sudden, you're going to be out late tonight. Maybe you should sleep in. Okay. It sends signals. Why? Its job is to keep the impulse of the light away from you. So you should choose selfishness. Because no lion wants another king of the forest. No cat wants to have somebody else hanging in its domain. They start running around. Why? An animal is an animal. An animal is selfish. Oh, you're giving attention to the rabbi? Wow. All of a sudden, a phone call. All of a sudden, a text. Oh, I got to take care of it. You're distracted. Shabbos, there's no phone, there's no text. So what does the animal soul puts into your head? So how's business lately? I'm here at services. Why am I thinking about business? The animal wants attention. But when you're at service, when you're at work, the animal says, I got you. No thought, I got to go to a Torah class, pops into your head. Why? Gotcha. And that's the job of the animal soul, to be a klipa, to be a shell. Doesn't let you go and feel the godliness in you. In our world, most things are considered klipa. Kosher, but it's still a physical thing. I desire it. This chair that I'm on is klipa. I have to sit on a chair. I want a fancy chair. It's all klipa. Everything in this world, unless it has the sheer attention when it was made like a Torah, is klipa. When you see a Torah, oh, that's holy. That's holy. Why? Because it was totally made for holiness. Most of our world, it's an attention grabber away from God. The level of something's holiness depends on how much of godliness is revealed through you. The less something proclaims its holiness, for an example, you have a TV in your house. How much Netflix do you watch? How much Fox do you watch? No, it doesn't mean you're watching anything that's sinful. My little grandson, all he sees is videos of the Rebbe clapping, Chassidim dancing, little children singing songs, Jewish songs. Okay, now that became a holy monitor because nothing else is seen on it. So every time my little Mendel sees it, he looks at it and goes, yeah. Why? It's all it knows. It only sees it as a holy concept. So what is our mission as Jews? Is to peel away. It's like hide and seek. God hides, we seek, and we use that material thing and peel away what's hiding its holiness and use it for holiness. For example, this phone, how many of us use it for gossip? How many of you use it for Torah? You see, it could be either way. When you choose to use it for holiness, you're adding the whole purpose of creation, of why God created phones. But phones is a big distraction. Proof, how many of you during this class right now, even though you may be watching on a computer, are looking at your phone and you're texting and you're looking at an email because that is what the animal soul wants. Don't concentrate on the Torah stuff. We do bring holiness to everything, but then, as we said last week, I'm going to say it 100 times. Torah study is the most important way to start bringing holiness. First, downloading it into yourself, so it creates actions that you can do in this world to bring holiness into this world. So that is what your animal soul is made of. Your animal soul is a klipa. It's there to hide any signal from the godly soul to who you are. And the other thing is that the animal soul is always saying to you, give me attention, give me attention, give me attention. Like I said, you could be at services, you're always thinking business. You're always thinking about the trip coming up. You're talking to God. I'll just say the words, but my head is somewhere else. Remember what I told you? You are where your head is. That's where you are. Who are you? The intentions of while you do your actions. How do you refine your actions? For an example, a lot of people have an animal soul in giving charity. I want the whole world to know my name is in big lights. I just gave $10,000. Everybody goes, oh, you're great. No, the only reason why I gave the $10,000 is that you announced my name. So even though you did a righteous action, you're still an animal inside. It's all about the ego. Oh, I'm going to make a big dinner. I'm going to bring everybody kosher and everything. So everybody should go and say, I'm a great cook. So here you brought in all the homeless and everybody, which is a great mitzvah, but it was all about your ego. The whole purpose of this Tanya is going to be teaching us how to harness this animal, and instead of it running wild looking for attention, we can teach dogs tricks. We can take the animal and teach it how to serve God. Really? We'll get to that soon. But in the meantime, on page 47, there's a beautiful story called Pearls of Wisdom. It says, a life worth living. If you're on page 47, let's read it. It says, when the founder of the Chabad movement, the author of the Tanya, he wanted to give a blessing to the great Rabbi Yekusiel Lapierre. And he wanted to give him a blessing of long life. Rabbi Yekusiel responded, he put up his hand, whoa, 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 whoa. Before you give me a blessing for long life, I don't want peasant years, he said. I don't want to have poor life with poor eyesight, eyes that can't see, or ears that cannot hear. You see, I want eyes that can perceive God. I want ears that can hear God. To Rabbi Yekusiel, life was not worth living, a long life, unless it was a life of holiness. He wanted to be filled with the awareness that God is all around. So, Rebbe, you're going to give me a blessing for good life? Give me a blessing. You shall live a good life filled with Yiddishkeit, Judaism. You know, there are a lot of people in the music industry. And if you watch the videos, it's like, what's going on here? Now, I can't control the music industry. Why? Because they're here to sell music to people that like what they see. So they're feeding the animal. I get that. But we as writers can control what we write. Therefore, if we write songs that can change the darkness to light, whatever the situation is, I have a broken heart, now I'm in love. I have a broken heart, understanding how I got to then the video becomes a different video. And all of a sudden the world becomes a better place. Doesn't mean all the songs have to be written, but we have to start somewhere. Same thing is with movies. Same thing is with what our children see. They have no idea what they're going through, and they see all of these things. My God, what your kid sees. By the way, did you know that in the religious world, they have a couple of apps with hundreds and hundreds of Jewish cartoons made for Torah? And videos and documentaries and mysteries and all of the stuff. Nobody, have you ever heard of Torah video? Torah video? Torah video? Huh. I think it's TROAHVEEDIO. I have it on my phone. Why? So when my grandchildren come and say, Zaidi, Grandpa, Zaidi, can I take your phone? Yeah, take my phone. And what are they watching? Phenomenal mystery of something happened. And they figured it out. The mezuzah on the door. Look, if the rabbi really came through this door, he would have fixed it. That means he really didn't come this way. He must have gone a different way. It's all based on Torah values, and it's for kids that are from the age of 4 years old to teenagers. They have so much material. So I'm just saying, you can use your phone. You can create material that is also holiness. So this way, the klipa, see, if you live in MTV, you act like MTV. You dance like MTV. The Jew is here to refine the world, bring a light, to bring another way. It's who we are. How? Through the Torah. But inside me, I have an ego. Inside me, I have a klipa. Inside me, I have an animal soul that doesn't let me act so Jewish. Could you imagine you walk over to a Jew and say, come to services this Shabbos? Are you kidding me? It's going to be in the 70s. I can finally go to the beach. The animal soul says, You think the godly soul, I'm going to give it a chance to stand up? And that's why it's so hard sometimes to talk to Jewish people. Let's do something Jewish. Here's a beautiful also story from the Kotzker. The Kotzker Rebbe once was asked by his Hasidic followers, where is God? He says, no, he asked them, where is God? And all the followers and all the Hasidim said, why? Everywhere is God. What's the question? He says, no, that's not where God is. God is where you let him in. For an example, I've been to many Hollywood parties. Trust me, I've been there. Why? I got to say hello to somebody. And the boys are dancing and the girls are dancing. And you know what's going on. And sometimes I see these little things on the table. I found out later. I said, what are these white lines of powder? I didn't know. I didn't know. So sometimes you go to these places, a guy like me. Now, I don't feel out of place because I'm very secure of who I am. But then sometimes you walk out, I need to take a shower. I just need to take a shower. Why? Because we're not letting, God is there, let's be honest. But the animal soul, the cleep has covered it. Now, we can't look down upon the Hollywood parties. We can't look down upon the people in the industries. Just like I can't look down at you. How many of us do not keep Shabbos and kosher? You just don't know better. You haven't felt better. You haven't felt the yummy. You haven't been exposed to it. Whose fault is that? God. He put you in the world that you're in. And it's a tough battle, huh? Of course it is. But that's why you're at this class. At least you're starting to understand why it's so hard for me sometimes to really feel God in me. Why others, wow, look at that Jew, man. They used to work with me, and now they're enjoying Shabbos. What? They're nuts. I don't feel it. Now you're starting to understand a little bit of the battle inside you. Some people say, I can't be with the guys with the black hats and jackets. I just can't. They'll never understand me. We understand you very well. But give yourself the opportunity to come to my Shabbos table. Come to my service. Watch. We'll welcome you with open arms. I'm not here to change you. Not at all. I'm here just to educate. It's up to you to take it. And you say, yesterday was, why should I do it? Because Torah came in. Now the question is, why not? Why should I not do it? By the way, Hollywood does try to change you. They say it openly. We want to change the consciousness of America and the morals and the this and the that. They're out to change you. So their darkness is changing. Okay, change the world, do whatever you want. You can't change me. You see, I don't go to your movie. I don't watch your movie. I don't see your content. If anything, when you come around the Shabbos table of the average religious home, there's such love, there's such beautiful yumminess. The kids are not saying four-letter words, they're feeling comfortable. But that's the battle. God created a world that's real hard to see him. God created you and I, the small world, in the micro. Very hard to sometimes feel him. But you have a godly soul that's so powerful, it's just bursting, waiting to come out. But your animal soul is very, very strong. Which one is stronger? Obviously the godly. But you have to be able to come and do something to ignite it and then watch. Wow, it's like the miracle of Hanukkah. Whew, so much more on this, just in this beautiful chapter. But the time is going. So next week, in the next class, we're going to start understanding. The head says one thing, but the heart feels something else. The battle between the brain and the heart. How do we understand it? How do we understand how we tick? And how do we empower to do the right thing. Should I follow my heart or should I follow my thoughts? That is in our next class.